Again, if I say something, for those who are watching online, that you don't completely agree with, that's fine. I have, through my studies, I've been able to come up with my own theories of man and my own thoughts. And again, I think that God gave us all brains so that we could kind of decipher in different ways, but at the same time, come to one conclusion. Back in verse 27, I believe it was, it said, "So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. He created male and female on the sixth day." We're going to get into a little bit later with the gap theory and what the gap theory talks about. But here it says on day 6 that God created male and female. If we take that literally, there's no way that Adam and Eve could have been the first man and woman. And I say that saying this. Adam and Eve, I believe, were the first ones that God breathed into a spirit. I believe that Adam and Eve Adam was the first man to have a spirit that was like God, into a soul that would one day commune with God and would go to God in heaven. I believe that that there was actually beings that were what we see as the man before man. The missing link was kind of before that. That when God breathed into Adam, he made something completely different. When he created Eve, he took a rib out of Eve, or out of Adam, to create Eve. And so scientists also have looked back and they check out your DNA. Everybody has DNA inside of them. That's the building blocks of life. That's how you grow. That's how you are who you are. With different nucleic acids that kind of combine together to create the person that you are. Your hair, your height, your body style, different actions that you do is created through DNA. Your mitochondria are little bitty factories inside of your cells that also have a section of DNA. Scientists have been able to take the mitochondrial DNA and have been able to go back to saying that all human life came from one woman, which I think is neat. That science is showing that we all came from mitochondrial Eve, is what they call it. They say that it was probably somewhere in the middle of Africa, where we believe that the Eden was in the middle of Africa. And from that, I believe that, because going back to Noah, that Noah's offspring would have been where we come from, but from that small line of Noah's going back to Adam, making us the creatures with the souls, making us, and I believe even with, if there were these other beings, and Genesis talks about the giants, and later parts of Genesis talks about giants that lived in the land, talks about Cain and Abel, how after Cain was killed, Abel knew his wife, and so that's why I think that there were these creatures that were there as well. And so, again, the breathing into Adam created a soul, created us to be who we are today.
Okay. Now, that's a very interesting idea. As we've talked about from the beginning of this, there are times that we may even disagree, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. There are some things in the Bible that I see that would support that. The giants in the land in Genesis, it talks about when the daughters of men knew the sons of God, and so there are some things where there is some, even biblically, some differentiation between peoples, and I do believe that that they would have had some sort of spirit. Now, soul, the eternal side of it, I believe that coming from the creating in our image means that they had to be a triune thing, because they were created in God's image. However, I do see a lot of validity in some things that you said there. So that opens that up for more research. That opens that up for more study. And as you've said, and as we've talked about through this whole series, when you look at creation, especially in the modern day, there are going to be differences. We obviously are different than the evolutionists and than the secularists that say the world started with a bang. And if we understand that throughout the rest of the Bible we have differences in our interpretation. Some people interpret the power of the baptism of the Holy Spirit, that it is alive and well today as we believe within the Pentecostal church, and that we operate and move in the Spirit. And others believe it was a powerful force of the early church, but it is dormant today, and that but yet we can call each other brothers, and we have to be able to understand that there are some other places that we look and we may say, you know what, I don't fully agree with that. However, I see some merit there, and I think that is important. I think that it is very important that we understand that as God has created man here, and as we go on, it is a different location, a different writing, another chapter when he names Adam and Eve and he creates Adam and Eve, and so we're not altering the word here. I think it is important for us to understand that this, at the crown of what God is creating here, God is laying out a system of authority. He gives authority to humans. They have authority over all the fish, over all the birds, over all the animals. They have authority to eat all the fruit. The fields are beneath them. Everything has been given in authority to man. Now, when you start thinking about the importance of the creation of man, the main importance of the creation of man to me is the fact that we are to provide for and take care of and protect and be the keepers of the planet. Now, so that I don't quickly sound like a tree hugger, I believe that we are responsible to care for nature. I also believe that nature has been placed here to provide for us. So, that means that there is a balance there. We care for nature, nature provides for us. That means that it is okay that later on today I will eat a cow. Probably sometime tomorrow I will eat a chicken. That is okay. Now, why? Because nature is taking care of me. It is providing for me. However, it also means that my family heritage was in the raising and nurture and care of cattle and chickens. Why? Because we take care of nature. Okay? So it becomes a cycle, but we are the king. We are the pinnacle of that creation. And creation is subject to us, and we are responsible for it, which creates that balance. It creates that balance that we need to have. What happens to us many times, we get out of balance. We let nature dictate us, or we dictate nature. Nature is not here for our abuse. It's here for our protection. We are not here to be ruled by nature. We are here to be provided by nature. It creates a balance. Now, you mentioned something in your discussion there about a gap theory. And I know that this is a very common concept. I want you to explain a little bit about what this gap theory is.
Gap theory is the time between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. Genesis 2 is when Adam was created, when God breathed into Adam. And then Adam went and named all the animals, and then God put him to sleep and took a rib out and created Eve. And then Adam and Eve walked around the garden. That's when Eve picked the fruit, took it to Adam. Adam said, okay, he ate it, and they got kicked out. All in Genesis 2. And that's why, again, going back, I think that with Adam being the one was first one breathed into, because in 27 it says